Ladles and Jelly Spoons, welcome back to Badgerworks. Today we are going to continue with our build of the Roden Fokker D.VII in 1/48 scale, and we're going to pick up from where we left off. So let's get on with it. Right, time has passed. It's been crazy here. I've been doing all kinds of different things. I haven't touched this for several days now. I can't remember where I got to in the filming. But basically what I've done is I have made up some sub-assemblies. I've got everything now in primer. I've spent a lot of time cleaning these parts. A lot of the parts did actually have some fine mold lines on them, which wasn't terrible. But for example, things like, where are we? Like these wing struts, they had some very fine mold lines, which I didn't like the look of. So I've been cleaning those up, things like that. But we are now finally ready to start putting some paint on things. Now, a lot of these parts need to be done apparently with aluminium. So I'm going to use this Vallejo metallic aluminium. You've seen me use this before. The nice thing with this Model Air stuff is you can just use it straight out the bottle. So I shall get on and do lots of bits with that, and then we'll move on to a different colour. All right, we might as well start with these bits. So these are the engine panel, the insides of the engine panels. You won't really be able to see a lot of this stuff once it's together, but you know, I know it's there. This is the bottom pan of the engine bay. And to be honest, I could have put all this together and then painted it, but it's easier to do it like this. Then we've got the top of the engine bay. So this is the underside of that. This is our fuel tank. And what I'll also do with this is once this is dry, I'll paint the caps brass just to jazz it up a bit. And then there's a few bits that go inside the cockpit, but I'll do those off camera because they're just like little fiddly bits. And then we'll move on from there. Right, there's some other bits that call to be done in grey. So again, I'm going to use one of these Model Airs. I actually have a couple of sets of these Vallejo paints that I completely forgot I had. And I have this one set. Hang on, I'll show you. It's... oh, hang on, if I can get it under the camera. It's all of the basic colours, or it's a basic selection of colours. So I completely forgot I had it. And I needed a light grey, and I thought, well, we'll give it a go and see what it's like. Right, we're going to start with the wheels, or the tyres. It's barely a different colour to the primer, actually. I could have probably just left them in primer, but it's worth noting, just as I do this second one here, that rubber is not naturally black. If you actually look at the rubber when it comes out of the tree or the plant, it's actually white. So always worth keeping in mind. And then there are various bits inside the cockpit that are apparently grey. So the rudder bar. It's all little fiddly bits. This is the dashboard, which is apparently grey. But we'll do some detail work on this later and just jazz it up a little bit. Oh, I've just realised one of these bottles has leaked. I say these are brand new, but that yellow ochre, really, yeah, that's leaked. That's delightful. Oh well, I'll just clean that up, shall I? I say I've only just opened this packet, so, but the lid wasn't on tight. It must have come out of the factory like that. Because it's funny, because some of them have these yellow seals on them, and some of them don't. So like this one that I'm going to be using, this mahogany, doesn't have a seal on it. They must be like older bottles or something. But yeah, that's disgusting. But never mind. You see how long it's been like it. The label's just falling to pieces. Never mind. I'll clean up the rest of that in a minute. Right, I'll leave that one out for now. Anyway, as I say, we're going to switch to this now and just use a couple of drops just to do the seat. Right, here's our seat. And for the inside of the cockpit, we're going to use this khaki. And we'll also use it for the floor of the cockpit, but you'll see I've primed this white instead of grey. And I'll show you why in a minute. Like that. And also the rear bulkhead of the cockpit. And finally, we'll do the guns and the engine in black. Oh, I should mention, by the way, I actually drilled out the barrel and the front sight hood just to give them a bit more detail. But, you know, that was fun. Anyway. And the last bit for now, the engine. Right, that's the engine and the guns done. These will get a coat of gloss lacquer just to make them look a bit more as they should. I mean, technically the bottom of that engine should be silver, but you can't see it, and you know, it's fine. Literally all you can see is the camshaft on the top, so I think we'll be all right. Right, I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the guns and the engine with a very, very light dry brushing of this Citadel chainmail, and then I'll give them a coat of gloss lacquer, our normal high coat stuff. Right, see if we can do this without knocking this off the thing. Because what I want to do is just, like I say, just hit it very, very lightly. Because I just want to show the detail on the gun. Just to make the edges pop and that a little bit, like that. Not very much, just enough to give it a little bit of definition. And mainly around the top, because that's what you'll see. But you can see by doing this, it just makes all of those details pop. So a lot of this you won't see. I don't know if I mentioned before, but I also drilled out the exhaust. So we'll do a little bit on the end of there as well, just to make that stand out. There you go, just like that. Right, so we'll give this a coat of lacquer and we'll do some more detail work on the interior. Right, so as I mentioned, I'm going to do some detail work in the cockpit. And I've got some of this brass and, again, our aluminium there. I've just put a little drop of each on this bit of cardboard. And I'm going to take a brush. This brush, I think. Find my glasses. And what we're going to try and do, I'm going to move this just out of shot of the camera for a second, because quite frankly, the camera will probably try and focus on it. So we'll start with our aluminium. And what we're going to try and do is just paint these gauges in. And I'm just going to do them like this. They don't need to be super detailed. Like that. And then I'll wash the brush out. And then the really fun bit starts. I'm going to try and paint these switches with our brass. Now, let's see how well this works. There we go. That doesn't look too bad, does it? We've got a little bit on there. And a little bit on there. And a little bit on there. There we go. It's just to give it a little bit of interest, that's all. And what we're also going to do while I've got this out is, and I think I mentioned this earlier, we're going to paint the caps on these, on this tank. I'm kind of curious what would go in this tank, because it's divided into 3 parts, which is why you've got 3 filler spouts. So I'm assuming that one of them, like the big one, is probably petrol. One of these 2 will be oil, but I don't know what the last one would be. If anybody has any ideas, do feel free to put it in the comments. There we go. And the next thing we're going to do is the cockpit floor. And we're going to do something interesting with that. Right, so here's, well, it's the rear bulkhead, but we're going to do the same on both. And I have got in this pot a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, which I will now move out of shot so the camera doesn't try and focus on it. And we have some X26 clear orange. Now, I've done this before with varying degrees of success. So this might work and it might not, but we'll see. So what we're going to do is we are going to take a flat brush and we are going to paint this on like so, fairly haphazard. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to go on like that. And then we need to be quick with this because this stuff dries really fast. We're going to take a fan brush, we're going to dip it in our alcohol, and we're going to pat it dry on a bit of tissue. So it's not too wet, and then we're going to very lightly go over this like so. And again, haphazard, it does not need to be perfect. There you go, and that makes it look a bit more like wood, you see. Now, there's something else we're going to do with that in a minute, but we'll let it dry first. And I'll do the same thing on this other bit. Right, and now these have had a chance to dry, I'm going to go over them very lightly with this X24 clear yellow. Like that. Right, there we go. I'm going to go over the metal rudder skid plates with the same grey that we used for the other bits. And then I'm going to give this and all the grey parts inside a coat of gloss lacquer, and all the metal bits I will give a coat of matte lacquer. So I'll do all that, and then I think we can start possibly putting the cockpit together. Maybe, I think. We'll see. Anyway, this is next. Try and do this in front of the camera. Right, we need to do this little bit here at the back. There we go. So like I say, let that dry. Gloss lacquer for this, matte lacquer for the other bits. Right, so while I'm waiting for some things to dry, I'm just assembling the floor of the cockpit, which I think is going to be hilarious because the holes don't line up. I just realised, but we'll have to try and do what we can with it. So that goes, the control stick goes in like that, and we'll just put a little double glue on there, and then we need to put that through there. If it's going to fit, it should fit, but now it won't, and now it's got glue all over it. Right, I'm just thinking actually, it might be a better idea to put that in there like that. And then line those up. And do it like that. Right, that goes in there. Oh, that's almost spot on actually. Right, let's glue that in. Make sure that's set in properly. Oh, which it now isn't. And then pop that in there. Put a little double glue there. That goes like that, and then this compass, this is going to go twang, you watch, goes in there. If we put a little touch of glue on that, we should better push that in. Oh, or it could just fall over. Oh, good grief. You can't beat surface tension. Alright. I'm hoping that's actually going to fit, because that looks like that's over the edge of that, but we'll see. You see, or hopefully you can see, but that rod is supposed to line up with that bracket, and it doesn't. And it's because these two holes are very slightly over to the one side, which is slightly annoying. I'm going to turn this compass round because I think it might fit better if I can. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this or not. I'll do it like that, that's better. Right. Okay, we put that to one side to dry. Right, now this is going to be hilarious, because what I'm going to try and do, and it's probably going to fail miserably, is hopefully you can see these, but I've got some tiny little belt buckles here that are actually 3D printed. They're the same ones that I used on the Chevrolet, but these are just a smaller scale. They're probably still a little bit on the big side, but they'll do. But they actually have slots in them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bit of tape to make, or try and make some seat belts. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut a piece off of this. And I'm not even measuring this, I'm just doing this entirely by eye, so it's bound to be completely wrong. Now, let's have a look and see if that's... Oh, so close. Right, what we might do is we'll just trim a little bit off, like that, and like that. And then what we'll do is we'll see if we can get that through that slot. Oh. And this is another one of those hilarious moments that you can probably see this better than I can. Oh. Oh, go on, get in there. This is going to go twang in a minute and disappear, you watch. There we go. And then we'll just bend that back on itself and stick that like that. Whew, that was fun. Because one of the things I've noticed looking at some like real aircraft is that the belts were very wide, like these really wide lap belts that they had. And I know this is not historically accurate, but it's more just to give it that look, you know. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pop that in there, like that. And this is where the benefit of using tape to do this, because it will actually stick. And then we'll just trim a bit off of the end of that and fold that underneath like that. There you go. Just make sure that that is nicely pressed down. Like I say, it doesn't have to be perfect because we want it to look, you know, like a fabric belt, so it wouldn't be completely stuck, but oh dear. So there you go. So I will do the other one because quite frankly it's much easier doing it without the camera in front of me, and then we'll go on from there. Right, now comes the fun bit of trying to get this cockpit together, which is going to be hilarious, I think. So that needs to go like that somehow. We've also got to get the seat in there. That's both the belt buckles in there, by the way. Now, I think we might need to put the seat in first. But that needs to go like that somehow. Oh, this is going to be hilarious. Oh, we'll just put it in like that. It'll be fine. Okay. All right, I'll put a blob of glue. Oh, that's way too much. This is the trouble with these Revel contactors. They just wick, and the glue just goes everywhere. So much for precision application. Right. That goes on there. Like, not like that, but somewhere like that. Oh, good grief. Like that. We'll put a little bit of this down the back there. That is not really straight, but it's as good as it's going to get for now. Right, now we need to get this floor in. And I apologise if you can't see what's going on, because quite frankly, neither can I. So, you know, it's fine, everything's fine. Right, that needs to go under the seat, like that somehow. Oh, stay. You're not going to stay, are you? Because of course you're not. Oh, I just needed to stay put for a second while I try and put some glue on it. Get in there. Stay. Oh, don't do that. I'm trying to do this under the camera. it's not simple. Now, this cross member needs to go on here, but it looks like it's going to hit the... Oh no, it might just about fit. Right. Oh, that's way too much. It's okay, that's got to be painted anyway, so... Right, you go there. Like that. so now we need to put the other side on. Oh dear. Right, everything is in completely the wrong place here, which is great. This is one of the advantages with this particular model, because it has no locating pins. So it means that everything just kind of floats, which is, in a way, very annoying, but in another way, it's actually quite useful. Right, we need all the clamps. Right, that's not looking too bad. That is not in the right place, but it might be once we do that. That's a bit more like it. Now, if we glue that, that'll give us somewhere to start. Right, did that fit on there? That will fit on there, that's nice. Right, let's get some glue going on here. So we want some there, and we want some on the front here. And then we want to try and line this up. And then put a clamp on it to hold it while we try and finagle the interior into place. Okay, now. So we'll just push that down a touch. Oh, that is not doing what I wanted it to do at all. Let's move that to there, that's a bit more like it. Right, now, if we just push that down a bit, like that, and then we put a little dot of glue there. Like that. And then we want to try and glue the rest of this fuselage together. Is that seat straight? Good enough government work. Right. And we put a clamp on the back here. And try and glue the underside. Right, now, what I'd like to do is try and get some glue in there to help that melt together. I don't know if this is going to work. Oh, but it might have done. Right, now, we get some big clamps and we apply some brute force and ignorance. Okay, turn that over. And more brute force and ignorance. Where's the other clamp? There it is. Like that. And then we leave that to dry while we do a bit more painting. What was hard about that? It was easy. Anyway. Right, so it's time to do a bit more painting. And according to the instructions, which I found slightly odd, it says that the front half of the aircraft and all of the struts are actually olive drab, which I found kind of weird, but because on the box it looks black. But anyway, that's beside the point. I then realised I actually don't have any olive drab, which is absolutely bizarre. So anyway, I went rummaging in the cupboards and I found this. So this is Vallejo primer. It's olive drab primer, so I'm just going to use that. It's close enough. I mean, it's olive drab paint. It says primer on it, but whatever. It's just paint. So yes, so we're going to use that. So let's take one of these side panels and see how well this goes on. Looks like olive drab to me. So I'll do all the side panels, the engine compartment and the struts and everything. We also have to do the wheels, but we'll look at those separately. Right, so for the wheels, the centre caps are olive drab as well. So these are easy because we can just basically apply paint in the normal fashion. Like so. But for these other wheels, obviously we have the tyres to deal with. And I'm going to show you a trick, and I've done this before, but I always think it's worth repeating because it's a very, it's that one weird trick, you know. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to use this. Now this is a template, a circle template. And it's a very simple way to paint wheels without having to mask things up. So obviously I've already painted the tyres the light grey that they need to be. So what we need to do now is we basically just need to find a hole in this that is the right size. Stop laughing at the back. So that one might be a bit much. I think this one might be the one that we need. So that is 11.5, 11.5 or 12. I think 12 might be better. And so what we do is we just hold that on there like that, make sure it's perfectly centered. I'm just going to turn this around a bit because I'm going to have to spray it in a second. Like that. And then we take our airbrush and we just spray straight onto the wheel like that. And what we should have when we take this off is a perfectly painted wheel. So there you go. Actually that looks like that hole might have been slightly too big. Probably would have been better to use 11mm. I use that on the other one. But that is basically a very quick and simple way to paint wheels. So there you go. Right, I have been doing stuff in preparation of painting the fuselage and also just trying to put this thing together in general. In news that will probably surprise no one, this doesn't really go together very well. Although I am myself quite surprised by this, because usually these Roden kits go together quite well, but this one we're struggling with a little bit. So first of all, the lower wing did not want to go on very well, and I don't know if you can see that, but the wing, it's better now, but the wings were basically drooped downwards, and it was basically because this here was too narrow and didn't fit over the fuselage. So what I've done is I've just taken this this wide flat file and just used it like that, just to basically remove a little bit of material on each side, and I've just basically tidied it all up so it fits a lot better now. So that's one thing. The other issue we've had is the tail. The tail does not fit very well at all. I mean, it does now, but it didn't. So basically it fits on like that, more or less. There was, when the two halves of the fuselage went together, basically one half of it was sticking out about 1 millimeter, so it wasn't straight anyway. But I also had to remove some more material because it was basically sitting back like this. It was just nowhere near. So I had to remove a little bit of material from the inside of these like horns, and remove some material to make it fit flat there. And also it was sitting up kind of like that. So I had to, again, use this. This is quite handy, this file, because it's nice and broad. So I basically removed material there, just to make this cutout lower so that it will fit properly. The tail also didn't fit properly, and actually still doesn't fit properly. The problem that we've got there is that when you put this on, and I'll just try and finagle that into place. Oh, it's easy to put that on first, actually. Well, let me just show you. If I put that there like that, that fits. So it fits in between these two little prongs. It fits really nicely. The problem is this tail plane is too thick, and so when you put the tail, when you put the rudder onto the tail, which also doesn't fit very well, but it does. I've got it to fit, you know, more or less. When you put that on, you can see there's now a gap at the bottom there. So the tail plane is too thick, but it's fine. It's good enough. So that's done. I've also filled in a couple of little gaps there. That was fine. I also cleaned out these slots. Again, I just basically opened them up with a file and just made them a little bit wider and a little bit deeper, so that this would fit, so this fits better. So that's all that. What I'm going to do now, I've also just been making a few little minor modifications to this. So this is the top cover for the cockpit and where the guns go. So this these like blocks here are actually the ammunition feeds. So I think this box here is actually in the wrong place. I think that's supposed to be the ammo box, and it's supposed to be like behind, you know, like in line with these. But anyway, that was just flat. So what I've done is I just took the tip of a knife and I've just put some scores in it, and I'll show you how I'm going to paint it up in a minute. So what I want to do now is paint those, and then I also want to put some paint chipping, effect on the engine cowlings and all that. So we'll do that now, and for that we're going to use this chainmail. So the first thing I want to do is just paint these blocks, which I think for that we will use a nice little flat brush. Where are my glasses? There they are. Right. The trouble is, where I've been working on everything, there's little flecks of plastic everywhere and it just sticks to everything. But, you know, never mind. So we're just going to paint these like this. And as I say, you can see where I've made those scores. And I'll show you what they're for in a minute. Right, that'll do for that. And then what we also want to do is on these side panels, oh, we'll use a different brush for that actually. Yeah, pointy brush is better for this. So what we're going to do is just take some paint and just a little bit on the end of the brush, and we're just going to go round the edge of these panels and just basically make them look like they've been handled. Just kind of chip the paint a little bit. Like that, you see. I'll go around the rest of these and then I'll give them a coat of gloss lacquer, and then we'll put some panel liner on them. Right, now this silver's dry, I'm just going to go over the middle here with some brass. Just to make it look a bit more bullet. Alright, you see? And again, let that dry, gloss lacquer. Right, I've just been putting a bit of sponge on this canopy, or on the cockpit to mask it before I paint the fuselage. And the last thing I want to do before I start putting paint on this is these control cable eyelets, I suppose would be the best word for them. I'm going to drill them out so I can put some wires in them later. So I've got a 1/2 inch drill bit here in my little Archimedes drill, and my glasses will help so I can see what I'm doing. Hang on. There we go. So what we're going to do is just come in at the back of this and just drill through there, and that'll give us something to attach the rigging to later. There's not a lot of rigging on this, which is nice, but it's mainly control cables. We're going to need to put some in the wings and everything as well, but we'll look at that later. But I say we just drill all of these out, and then we can put some primer on this thing. So I'm going to give it a coat of grey primer first, and then white primer, and then we'll paint it red. Right, while we're waiting for that primer to dry, we're going to put some panel line on the engine covers. So we'll start with this one. And what we mainly want to do here is get around this around this belts. And that, as you can see, basically just sinks into those little cuts I made, and it now looks a bit more like a belt of ammunition. But we'll just go around a few of the other bits like that. And obviously we'll come back in afterwards and we'll tidy all this up, but this is the main thing, is getting those belts done. And then on the other panels, it's just basically just going round all of these bits just to make them stand out a bit more, that's all. Just like that. And like I said, I'll do the rest of them. We'll let this dry and then we'll clean them up. Right, while we're waiting for that panel line to dry, we're going to go back to our XF7 and do the fuselage and the underside of the lower wing. There we go. Right, while we're waiting for that paint and varnish and everything to dry on the fuselage, we can turn our attention back to the side panels, or the engine cowling. So what I've got here in this little pot is some just some cheap white spirit, and I've got a little fan brush here. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to move this out of the way, just so the camera doesn't try and focus on it. But I'm just going to basically dip the brush into the white spirit and then use a bit of tissue and just wipe most of it off so that the brush is just damp. And then what we're going to do is just go over this like so, and we're going to help this to kind of streak a little bit like that. Just going very, very lightly over it, because the nice thing with this brush is you can see when it gets wet, it kind of clumps up like that, which is not ideal for a brush, but it works perfectly for this kind of application, because it gives us some nice, hopefully you can see those, some nice streaky effects on it. So we'll just go over all of the bits like that, and then once that's dry, we'll give it a coat of matte lacquer. But I've also done, just quickly, I'll show you the wheels as well. I've done the wheels as well, and we're going to give those the same treatment. But in this case, what we're going to do is go from the middle to the edge, like that. Because we want those streaks kind of radiating out from the middle. So it's like the wheel has been turning and you know, throwing the stuff off, or the wheel obviously doesn't always stop in the same place. So we just go round it like this, and there you go. It's a very, very subtle effect, but it works. So I'll do the rest of these bits, and we'll go on from there. Right, I'm going to take a moment now to assemble the cockpit. So I'm going to use this Revel contactor and hope it doesn't spurt everywhere like it does sometimes. So I did drill a little hole in the dashboard for one of the gauges to fit in, which is this one here. That goes, oh, everywhere but where I want it to, because of course it does. fuel tank on. That goes like that. Right, now we've got the fun bit. Because what we need to do now is pop this down through there and into a hole on the top of the fuel tank, which I now of course can't see. It's fine. Oh, come on, turn around. Come here. Oh. Right. For that we'll use this. I'll just put a little top of that there. Like that. Right, then we will try and get this dashboard in. Oh, which does not want to go. And also the fuel tank is falling off again, because of course it is. Oh, the fuel tanks fell off again. Okay. And now we'll let that dry for a second, then we'll put the guns in. Right, now for the guns. Goes in something like that. I think one of the offspring is arriving. My son's here. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Michael.
What are you after?
I could find these bits, but do you know where the actual bow is?
What?
Well, because these are the arrows that came with it, and the little arm guard.
I have absolutely no idea, quite frankly.
Oh, okay.
You would be better off asking your mother about that.
I did, she didn't know.
Oh. Well, in news that will surprise no one, I don't know either. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess I'll go keep digging around with this one to see if I can find anything.
Well, yeah, have fun.
Bye.
Bye. He's looking for his bow. He's decided to get back into archery. Right. I think, oh, good grief. And he drops on the floor. There he is. Ah. Right, how much of that fell off? Oh, none of it. Although, of course, it did land muzzle first on the guns and broke one of the sight protectors off. But we might better glue that back on. That's really annoying, but still. Right, managed to manoeuvre that back into position, and hopefully a judicious drop of glue will keep it there. Right, I think we managed to save that. So, there we go. Put that to one side and let that dry, and move on with the rest of it. Right, I think that's probably a good place to draw a line under this for now. We've made some good progress. We've got the cockpit assembled, we've got the fuselage together, and I think we're just about done with the main body so far. So now we need to move on and do the engine and the wings and all the other bits and pieces. But yeah, I think with this, this has gone better than it did with the initial like decals and whatnot. We've done quite well with this. So yes, hopefully you're enjoying this little series. As ever, I'd like to thank my top tier patrons, Howard, Amy, Chris and Hawaii Clive O, for their continued support. So it only remains for me to say very badly, Slava Ukraini, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers. Bye.